Hello all and welcome to Midweek Brief. My name is Anthony and on behalf of FP Markets, thank you for attending. As always, the whole point of these brief videos is just to bring you up to speed with the news in a nutshell. Hopefully as much truth as possible, which is hard nowadays, I know, and a big problem for all you traders out there. First thing before we proceed is the Traders Hub. I like to push this, it's free. Please take advantage of it. Our experts have come up with some fantastic articles, especially around inflation. They like to cover parts of the world, so there's always something you can relate to. So if your account is approved, you're fully verified, please take advantage of this free material. Let's push on with the news this week, and a lot's always happening as usual. The first story is out of South Africa. Out of South Africa today, we have elections. Now, it will probably take 5 to 7 days for all the votes to be counted. But in regards to these elections, what makes this so significant? Firstly, as I've mentioned in previous videos, up to 4 billion people this year are eligible to vote around the world in their respective elections. That's a mixture of local elections, general elections, whatever it may be, but elections nonetheless. Since Mandela died and he created the political party, the ANC, out of South Africa, they've had most of the power over the years, around 30 years or so approximately. Generally, they've been received pretty well. However, I'm not here to pretend I'm an expert and get involved in South African politics. What we do know is that we're talking about a political party that had 80, 90% hold and 10% usually was other parties, Green Party style groups. However, now that's changed. They could be looking at only holding on to 50% of power, which means that a lot of the power will be distributed amongst other groups. Now, the thing is, these other groups is the controversial part because some of them are very extremist in their views, and some of them are, let's say, more Western liberal slash capitalistic views. We're not going to go into who's right, wrong. There are a few parties, and if I bring to the attention, for example, we've got the Democratic Party, and it's mentioned down here, the Democratic Alliance. If the Democratic Alliance gets some power, that's not a bad thing necessarily for South Africa. They believe a lot in capitalism, competition, trade, things like that. So not necessarily a bad thing, but if more power goes over to, let's say, the economic freedom fighters, it says it right here. They want to nationalize mine and seize land from white farmers to address disparities. Very controversial. I'm not here to give opinions on that. You can make your own decision. However, this is going to be a defining moment in South African politics, especially as the world's eyes are on them for various reasons already, including and mostly at the moment regarding the Israel situation and their complaint to the international courts. So interesting to see what happens out of South Africa. Let's see if the ANC actually do lose some power. If we go to the UK, we can see that the Labour Party are extending their lead over Conservatives. It was probably a matter of time before the Conservative Party self-imploded and Labour came back in. Tends to be this way in UK politics and no different than American politics. You have a couple of decades of Democrats in America and then a couple of decades of Republicans, and it swings between the two. And the same in the UK. Mostly it's a couple of decades of Labour Party, a couple of decades of Conservative Party. Now, to put it in perspective, Conservative Party are meant to be traditionally conservative. They're a bit more right wing. They believe in stricter immigration, preservation of culture and traditions, etc., etc. Whereas the Labour Party are a bit more left leaning and they're very much about business first, pro immigration. Again, regardless of opinions, these are what the two parties stand for. Looks like Labour are going to get into power, but let's not misunderstand this. This is not a case of Labour are getting into power most likely because Conservative voters are switching sides. No, no, no. As we can see here, Conservative Party or Conservative voters are more likely to be abandoning Conservative Party, but going for other parties, maybe Lib Dem, Green Party, Reform Party, whatever it may be, or even independents. Now, that's, the headline's misleading. It makes you think that Conservative voters are going over to Labour. That's not necessarily the case. In fact, we've seen a big increase in the Reform Party. Started in 2023 or came to prominence in 2023, are a controversial party, are definitely right wing. I'm not going to say extreme right wing, but they are definitely strict on immigration and strict on a lot of things. Definitely more pro-Israel than pro-Palestine, things like that. So they are gaining prominence. We're talking about a party that this time a year ago was literally just, I want to say it was just a YouTube channel, because it was literally just a few ex-politicians who put it together. Farage got involved, and now they've got possibly 12%. It could be 15, 20% by the time. And then that would mean that they have a few seats in parliament. And if they have a few seats in parliament, it means they get included on votes and they have some sort of power. So it will be interesting to see what happens out of the UK. As summer approaches, we get more and more elections. If we look at the opinion polls out of the UK, we can see obviously Labour are leading. Conservatives are mid-range, but the Reform Party we can see has grown since August last year and seems to be plateauing around now. May go up or down a little bit. Lib Dems are not going to go anywhere. Green Party is suffering from internal strife due to extremism within the party. Leave it at that. And the SNP have their own problems. If not, they'll probably be disappeared within a year or two due to their previous leadership for his racist comments, and then consequently resigned. If we go into American politics, the only update is that the hush money case from Trump is now closed. They've all said their piece. They now wait for the jury, the verdict to come out. We're not looking at prison sentence here or anything. This is more of a civil case to a degree. If anything, he'll probably just get a hefty fine, pay it off, and then within a few days he'll start campaigning. That is the current situation in America. He's still leading the opinion polls, only by a few percent, mind you, but we're talking about someone who on the opinion polls was 10, 20% behind Biden when Biden came into power, apparently, and has now overtaken him without any campaigning, which tells you that the Democrats basically done the hard work for him. So it'll be interesting. One more election is coming up that was never planned for this year, but obviously because the Iranian president passed away in the helicopter crash, looking at all the analysis from it, it looks very unlikely that there was any hidden agenda behind it, that it was a genuine accident. Yes, genuine things and accidents do happen. Still not, there's not a conspiracy to everything. There is to a lot of things, but not to everything. But what we can see is in Iran, the big shocker is people were hoping that the new president they could vote for might make him more internationally friendly, as what a lot of Iranians are looking for. But it seems that they're going back to the old school book and bringing up an old friend from 2003 when he was president and wants to come back again as president, Ahmadinejad. Any of you, let's say anyone over 30 who may be listening to this or watching this, will remember this guy as being, let's say, not very friendly towards the West. Some Iranians will support this and a lot will not support it. But if anyone thinks that the previous president was hardline, which he was, this guy absolutely overshadows that. We're talking about a guy here during the uprising in the 70s in Iran, went into the American embassy and held hostages there, and he was just a student at the time. He then got involved in politics and became the president. This guy is not going to make international relations with the West any more popular. That being said, is he meant to do that? Or is that just our opinion from the West that everyone should be friendly with everyone in the West? Who knows? He might be good for the Iranian people, but bad for international relations. That's their prerogative. But this is a big development. Their elections are probably going to happen within the next 35 to 40 days now. So it'll be interesting to keep an eye on that, and we will cover it in upcoming meetings. We stick on the Middle East situation in general. We know that there's always a lot going on around Israel, Palestine, and around Gaza predominantly. All I will say, without getting into too many grim details, because I know we're all probably sick of this news, but it is what's fueling the market, to be honest, is Rafah, the situation down here. There was an Israeli airstrike the other day. Netanyahu has come out and has said that it was a mishap. Now, the media was saying that it was a mistake. Let's not construe things here. What happened is not nice. I'm not taking sides or I'm not getting involved in that. But one thing here is that he never said it was a mistake. A mistake would imply that they didn't hit their target, that they accidentally killed civilians. A mishap is to say that they hit their target, but there were civilian casualties. So it wasn't executed in the way they hoped for. That being said, I'm not defending him. This is how the media is misconstruing it. the point is the Israeli defense are saying that they hit their targets within the refugee camp, but they didn't take into consideration that there might have been flammables nearby, is what triggered a fire in the region and killed around 45 people. It's a silly mistake to make, of course. It's controversial regardless before this even happened. But at the same time, we saw an Israeli armored vehicle cross over the Egyptian border chasing suspected Hamas militants. As they crossed the border, the Egyptian security forces fired upon the Israeli armored vehicle, which then fired back and killed one Egyptian security guard. This is not going to be good for relations between the two countries, especially considering the fact that over the previous months, Egypt has tried to sit at the table with Hamas and with Israel to come up with a ceasefire. But then only a week or so ago, Israel claimed that they found over 50 tunnels or up to 50 tunnels under the Rafah crossing into Egypt, which would then suggest that perhaps Egypt have been helping Hamas this whole time. Who knows? It's just speculation. For every accusation, there's a counter accusation in this situation, which makes it very difficult and divisive for people. All we can agree on is that ceasefire will be considered good. If we also look at the fact that they've spent 300 million, apparently, Israel has a point here, though, because they're claiming this as an example. 300 million was gifted by the UN and other backed charities to build this pier, this jetty, so that supplies could get into Gaza. Thing is, the guys who were working on it said that they built it entirely out of rubble that was found within Gaza. Where's the 300 million been spent? Again, this is only backing up Israel's claims that any money that flows into Gaza, a bit like Ukraine, is going into the wrong pockets. Could be a case here. There's no evidence to suggest, but looking at it, I think they got a point because I've seen football stadiums built for half the money that are epic in size and facilities. This is just a metal jetty that was constructed in a matter of weeks, but apparently it's cost 300 million to build. I'm not too sure about this. So parts of it have already started sinking. At first they were saying that Hamas were firing upon it, then IDF, Israel, were firing upon it. There's actually no real evidence that they were. The guys who built it have said that it's sinking because it can't keep up with the pressure of the weight of all the tonnage of the supplies that are coming off the ships. It's that simple. But as always, the media likes to spin things to make things look worse than they are. We know things are bad in the region, unbelievably bad. But the last thing we need is media inflaming situations or misconstruing situations. Whilst we stick on topic of conflicts, out of Ukraine, the only major significant development is Russia is gaining some small amount of grounds, the occasional village, I think two over the past 24 hours. This claim that Putin wants to build a buffer zone to Kharkiv actually makes more sense now because at the same time, today we should be having NATO members sitting down together and talking, pushed by Macron to allow permission for the Ukrainian forces to use missiles, bombs, whatever it may be, equipment to fire upon Russia. Now, to make this clear, they've always had Western weapons to use to defend themselves within Ukraine. If this gets approved, it means they can start firing the HIMARS, the missiles into Russia, and that will put a lot of pressure on Putin with his own people. And of course, he doesn't want that, which would then explain and make sense why he wants to create a buffer zone so that it limits how many missiles can be fired into Russia. The argument comes in that will this inflame the situation? Probably yes. It's not necessarily a good thing for the world, but at the same time, I suppose Ukraine does have a right to fire back. It's an old claim, and then that's what can lead to bigger wars, sadly. So we need to wait and see what happens with NATO, but all of this is reflected in gold. We can see that during this peak, gold reached the highest price it ever has. This was the Iranian president dying in a helicopter crash. Straight away, what this tells us is that people are living in a very pessimistic world, and I don't blame them. We're all part of this world. We see how crazy it can be. And when we heard that the president suffered a helicopter crash, myself included, because I watched the news a lot, straight away, because I'm a bit of a conspiracy theorist, I thought, okay, maybe some, Kurdish rebels were involved because it wasn't too far from that region, or maybe it was the American CIA or the Israelis, to take out the president and a few of his cabinet. But then looking at the analysis, it really doesn't seem that way, and it seems like a genuine accident. And if I was to point fingers at anyone, seeing the news that our friend is possibly coming back into power, I would raise concerns or questions that perhaps if anybody was involved, it might have been the own Iranian government so that they could bring in. We've seen these types of things happen over decades, so it wouldn't surprise me. But that's just the theory. But what we can see is that people panic straight away, thought things were going to escalate, give it a day or two, things calm down, gold settled. But now we're showing signs that it's starting to climb up again with the Rafa situation ongoing. If we look at stocks for the week, slight curveball, I thought it'd be interesting to look at pharmaceuticals. The reason being is with the pharmaceuticals, you can actually see that they have gone down around 8%, Moderna especially in this case. Why have they gone down? Quite simply, it's probably just pricing in. When I say pricing in, they have announced that their Moderna are going to start working with AI and they're going to announce a new product any day now that's going to be revolutionary. So this is what investors look for. They want to get in early, just like Bitcoin, get in early, new technology, get in early. So when you see it drop for no reason, it's probably big investors trying to bring the price down as much as possible so that they can buy at a cheaper rate. And if we actually see here, Moderna has big AI news. Is the stock a buy? Long answer. The short answer to the long question is yes, according to this article. But it seems that they're going to be doing some cybernetics. And if we look at Pfizer, we also will see that a lot of the share prices of the other pharmaceuticals are starting to come down as well. And they've also included Apple here, and I wonder why, because they're starting to work with AI as well. So we're going to see pharmaceuticals and AI companies working a bit more hand in hand. Now, in terms of macros for the week, the only thing I wanted to mention was there's consumer confidence that came out today out of the United States that was slightly up. We've got CPI coming out of Europe on Thursday. We've also got initial jobless claims coming out tomorrow out of the United States. We've got GDP as well. So very much a week focused on inflation, everything we can relate to. Go ahead, go to your Traders Hub, go to the economic calendar, and let me show you here. You've got here everything you need. You've got your technical analysis, fundamental analysis, research and education. And if you go to platforms and tools, and the reason I wanted to show this on our video now is because it's sometimes asked quite a lot. If you go to your research and tools, everything you need is here. Okay, if you log in through your portal, you will have access to your calendar as well as articles and everything as well. Thanks for your time. Anybody has any questions or anything they'd like to add, please leave a comment in the comment section. Thank you very much. Have a good day.